Hey guys, so this video is the third of a three-part series that I'm doing on my channel, titled more or less what I learned from my art teachers. And in the previous two videos I went over what I learned from my elementary school art teacher and then what I learned from my middle school art teacher. And today I'm going to be going over the most important thing that I learned from my high school teacher, who we are going to refer to as Mrs. K. And Mrs. K was different from my previous two art teachers in that she had a lot higher expectations for us. A little bit of background: I had Mrs. K for 3 of my 4 years of high school, and my sophomore year I had her for Introduction to Drawing and Painting, and then my junior and senior year I had her for IB Advanced Studio Arts. So sophomore year she was a little bit more kind of relaxed and lackadaisical about, you know, our work ethic, because it's a standard art class. You know, she's not going to be trying to push people to, you know, make fantastic pieces of work. She's honestly happy if she can even get most kids to turn something in. So we're not going to go over sophomore year very much, but junior and senior year is kind of when I learned the most from her, because the point of advanced studio art was I was going to be submitting a portfolio of works to the IB, I guess, art department, and I would be graded because it was a test. I was submitting a portfolio to be graded on. And so one of the things that Mrs. K always stressed in class was proportional accuracy, meaning if you were doing a piece on, I don't know, let's say you were doing a landscape and you were working kind of off of a reference, she would always, you know, want you to make sure that the trees were proportional to, you know, that rock in the distance, or just to make things look as realistic and accurate as possible. She was a very, I guess, she focused primarily on realism and hyperrealism. That was kind of her thing, and she kind of wanted us to work with, you know, realism and hyperrealism as well. So one of the things that she was always yelling at us about was, use a ruler, you should always use a ruler's your best friend. And so you can see in the video that I am in fact using a ruler for this drawing and measuring out my lines, which I never ever do. So but the one thing that I have realized about using a ruler when working on, you know, things like buildings or, you know, just man-made objects in general is that you can draw them without a ruler. It's just, I personally think that, you know, you're just able to get a cleaner line when you use a ruler, so that's kind of the reason why I wanted to use one here. But going back to Mrs. K, like I said, she was always yelling at us, you know, about making sure that everything was proportional to one another. And I remember somebody in class asking, you know, like, why are you always yelling at us about using a ruler? Like, what does a ruler have to do with things being proportional? And she explained that when you're working with backgrounds or landscapes, or just, you know, trying to set up a scene in general that has a foreground and a background, using a ruler makes it a lot easier to line things up and, you know, make sure that you're not drawing things out of perspective and, you know, making sure that, let's just say, the bookcase in the background is smaller than the bookcase in the foreground, because, you know, when you're working with perspective, things that are farther away from you, even though they may be exactly the same size, they're going to appear smaller than things that are closer to you. That's just how perspective works. And so, you know, she'd been teaching for years, and she had seen that the one mistake that people always made when they were working with, you know, scenes or backgrounds is that they wouldn't account for that perspective shift. And so they would be making things in the background way bigger than they should be, and things in the foreground way smaller than they should be. And it would just, you know, they'd be drawing the objects right, but it just wasn't in perspective, and so everything just looked really kind of wonky. And so that's where her you know, idea of always using a ruler came from, because using a ruler helps you to make guidelines, you know, for perspective, but it also helps you to make sure that, you know, one side of your building isn't taller than the other, or, you know, your lines are just straight and crisp. And I will admit that even though I don't use a ruler as much when I draw now as back in high school in Mrs. K's class, I have to admit that she is right in the sense that using a ruler really does help you achieve a cleaner, crisper line and help make things, you know, more proportional. And it does help you make sure that you're drawing things the same size from, you know, one side of the building to the other. Because usually when I draw buildings, I've noticed that either my perspective line, so the angle that the building, I guess, slants at when you're looking at it kind of from the side, that's pretty easy to fix when you have a ruler. But whenever I do it without a ruler, it's always off. You know, it's either too high, so the slant isn't big enough, or it's too low, so the slant is too wide. Oh boy. And even though it's way more time consuming to use a ruler than to just freehand it, I must admit that it is really, really helpful. So, there is some merit to what Mrs. K says about the importance of using a ruler, but at the same time, if you're going to stylize your work, then using a ruler might not be, you know, ideal for you, because using a ruler basically it makes all of your lines look exactly the same, because you're following a straight edge. That's what a ruler is. It's a straight edge. And when you're consistently using a ruler to make your lines, they're all gonna look the same, and you're gonna achieve a more realistic look to your drawing. But at the same time, in my opinion, you kind of lose whatever stylistic, I guess, attributes your drawing would have had you freehanded it. Because maybe, you know, when you use a ruler, the line is just straight and crisp, but when you freehand, maybe your lines are a little bit softer, or they're curved more. So, you know, your style changes the look and feel of the drawing, not necessarily making it any less proportional. Or, you know, you could be really good at proportions and, you know, making things look the same, but still kind of make it look your own, not like you just copied a reference image like I did. But anyways, I'm kind of starting to ramble here. I think one of the biggest takeaways that I got from Mrs. K is that while it's always important to, you know, develop your style and to, you know, make your drawings look unique and all that, but at the same time, there is, you know, it is important to use you know, certain tools to help enhance your drawings, like rulers. You know, rulers help you enhance your drawing by making your lines really straight and crisp, and they can be really helpful in helping you make, you know, your drawings or your illustrations. And I think even though I won't use a ruler as much anymore as I did in high school, I think after this video I'll be using them a little bit more, especially when I'm working with backgrounds that require perspective, or, you know, on other building illustrations like this. So yeah, I don't want to ramble on for eternity and bore you guys, so I'm gonna leave this right here. There's a little bit left to the video. I'm gonna actually color this illustration with some new pens that I got. They were actually the ones that Holly Brown used in her sketchbook slam challenge. I can't remember what they're called. Hold on, let me grab them real quick. They are the Zig Memory System Writer colored pens, I guess is what they're called. They're these water-based pens, so they're not like Copic markers. They're not alcohol-based. They're water-based, and so they don't bleed through cheaper sketchbook paper as easily, which is really good because that's the main reason why I haven't used, you know, colored markers in my sketchbook, is because they always bleed through the page and then onto the next page, and that's super annoying, and then I have to tear out pages, and it just wasn't worth it. But Holly Brown recommended these. She said they were really good, so I bought them off Amazon. I'll leave the link in the description below, and they're actually pretty good. I like them. You know, they're a little sticky when you first put them down. But overall, they have a lot of really bright and vibrant color to them, and it comes in a set of 8, so you've got plenty of color selection, and yeah, I actually like them a lot, surprisingly. I was kind of afraid because they kind of looked like those cheap substitute markers that you see at like Walmart, like a cheaper alternative, but no, these are actually pretty good, and I actually do recommend these because the paper surprisingly does hold it very well. So yeah, if you're looking for some inexpensive water-based markers to add some color to your sketchbook, Zig Memory System, I would definitely recommend these. So yeah, anyways, I'm rambling again. Thank you all so much for watching. This is the end of the series, so if you haven't seen my previous 2 videos, you should go check those out. I think they're pretty cool. And I will see you all next time. Bye! Thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. I come out with new videos every single week. And as always, I will see you all next time. Bye!